So from my position as product developer, I'm involved in the B2B business, which means that AGFA is actually a component supplier in the green hydrogen market. So actually, more precisely, actually focusing on the, let's say, supply of membranes for OEMs, which build actually the electrolyzers for the alkaline water electrolysis branch, really the branch next to the PEM, IEM, and the solid oxides. We are more focused on the AWE. So it's actually, to be honest, a Belgian manufacturer, which is unique today for composite membranes. Well, yeah, I consider hydrogen technology to offer a lot of several strategic, economical, and environmental advantages compared, of course, with the fossil fuels. More precisely, if you look, for example, at the, let's say, the near zero emission potential it has, it can enable the use of no direct carbon dioxide emissions compared to the fossil fuels. Hydrogen can therefore help to the ambition of heavy industries and transports towards reducing their carbon footprint, of course, and emissions. But on plus, and this is actually what I want to make more known to the people, is that I should look at hydrogen as an energy carrier rather than a source, which enables us even more in different sectors, such as refining, chemicals, and steel making, to use it as a kind of building brick. Rather than its energy. It can therefore become the cornerstone technology by being a replacement or even compliant to the current today industrial-wide applications. So that actually the future would be that it becomes a kind of strategic technology, which opens up opportunities to become more, let's say, independent from other external suppliers, and it could become a domestical product, which means that you can look at it from your country itself perspective, and therefore it becomes maybe a driver for new investment, innovations, and even job creation. So that's actually the huge advantage of hydrogen technology. So more precisely for Belgium, from my opinion, is of course, and talking to other people in the industry, at first Belgium will be more, let's say, a logistic hub rather than producing itself. So that's the first thing. So I hope, let's say, the harbors in Antwerp and Bruges will be of an added value to this, and then we can distribute hydrogen to our nearby countries. However, in the future, let's say, once we have this, let's say, established, would also be ambitious to say that you can also use hydrogen towards the heavy industries. Of course, we have heavy industry like glasses and metallurgy here in Belgium. So this could also lead to, when you collaborate with them, that we can create a hub, again, to create know-how. And again, this will add a value to educating people that know how to use hydrogen. So we can become a hub like Europe needs to be, a know-how hub for example, the use and application of hydrogen. So that's how I see Belgium in the future. Yes, so actually, of course, we look at our customer and we notice that we divide our customers, of course, in the different segments from which, for example, geographically, we have the European Union, we have the Asian markets, we have the North American markets, all over the world. We supply our membranes all over the world to any producer of alkaline water electrolyzers. So in this case, for example, if you focus on the European Union, we notice a very legislation hindrance. So the position of Europe towards actually the hydrogen implementation and becoming independent from, again, externals, supply of resources, they have, let's say, an inflexible way of legislation. They always put a kind of strict rules on top of it, and they make it less competitive. We are hearing and noticing down from our customers that they're bonded to rules, but also at the same time vague rules. So there's no clarity on this. So there needs to be from the European Union a very, let's say, regulation and legislation which enables and motivates the people to go for this hydrogen element in their policy and be also very clear about it. Yeah? So that's actually one level of let's say the hindrance. On technology side, this is actually a bit linked to it, is this fact is that today the trend, the hype of hydrogen is actually becoming is and facing actually a reality check. So how feasible is it? How much can we produce? What are the technology readiness levels for producing hydrogen? And we are questioning ourselves not only, but there is a lot less investments done towards this hydrogen projects. So we have a lot of projects that say at the initial phase, but becoming really on financial agreement, really becoming a project that becomes difficult and more difficult. So technology wise, again, we need to motivate them that this investment is still needed, effort is still needed. We need to optimize again the OPEX as well as the CAPEX when you produce hydrogen in general, because it's like any new technology, you need a kind of beginning. You will go through they always call it in I think in economical terms a valley of death. So in that phase you need to be able to go over it. There's a dispute on which phase we are. I'm not going to elaborate further on this topic. And today it's always, let's say, bottom-up approach. Like there are not, let's say, a lot of ideas about offtake of hydrogen. It's like we need, by European law, we will maybe be more interested in towards the future while we use hydrogen. Okay, we need to figure a way how we will use hydrogen in our current status of the business. While you need a kind more of governance, let's say, let's motivate, okay, we want to have an off-taker, and how motivate the off-take of hydrogen more than produce itself. So eventually, if you start with the end in mind, and you go back to the beginning of how to produce hydrogen, you motivate people more often than coming from, oh, we need to produce hydrogen, but who will take it off? There's no end consumer. So that's actually the hindrance, again, on the, let's say, the vertical integration of hydrogen. And additionally, the final step or final thing I would like to say is actually the mentality switch. So again, look at hydrogen as the energy carrier rather than the energy source. Make people believe and make it tangible for people. When I walk in the street, for example, and you talk to people about hydrogen, the first thing they come up with is, it's again a new technology, but it's dangerous, and it's like, no, it's also a feedstock for petrochemistry, for chemistry, for steel making. It's actually more than only an energy source. So make them also see the added value of hydrogen as such, and maybe let's say to be brainstorm wise telling you is like put an influencer on top of it, try to promote more than energy of the hydrogen. So a rebranding of hydrogen. Yes, so of course I will answer you now on a high level note, which means that of course I would like to consider hydrogen as a fundamental and foundational universal clean energy carrier, which enables a more full global low carbon economy, because I don't like the word decarbonization, because sometimes you need carbon in your process. So that's why I would like to emphasize the fact that we are aiming for avoiding carbon emissions in routes whereby you can use hydrogen as an alternative and you don't produce carbon dioxide, for example. But some routes you cannot exchange by hydrogen because you need the carbon from a technical point of view. But my wildest dream is actually, to be more personal, is actually, and there's no limits, is why not have a kind of mobile hydrogen plant? Like you can place it anywhere in any type of country, region, or whatever, and being able to produce anything you want from it. Because hydrogen, again, is a like kind of building brick. So you can produce, if you say, today I need energy, your factory can produce energy by hydrogen. I need energy for the future, you store the energy. You say, I need fertilizer. Well, I have the raw materials, you put your factory there, and with the hydrogen, you produce fertilizers. I need an extra coating on top of my metal layer or whatever, and I need hydrogen or glass for cell phones or iPhones. Your factory moves to there, and you produce whatever. Like, so it's like a game. And when people play on the computer, for example, where you just put like a factory on that place and it produces what you need, and then you move it to another place and then it produces what you need by hydrogen. That's actually a wild idea, but But what I would expect, of course, from those ideathons, it's actually the out-of-the-box ideas. So ideas we not think straight away from it because we are now really involved in the hydrogen market. So we have a kind of classical, traditional way to look at it. So I would like to have maybe some ideas about interlinking the different steps in the process of making hydrogen and redesign it, really shift it up. Actually the idea from SpaceX, for example, not in favor of the person, but the idea to be able to say, but we reuse the rockets, just this type of idea and work to it. So maybe have a kind of, at the end, the idea of, for example, that factory, I meant like a movable factory and use a kind of tool to make it always possible to produce anything you like this type of, but more tangible, of course, in this ideathon, like a way to interlink the complete chain of how you produce hydrogen and link it with the input of the energy and link it with the off-taker. Rethink the effect of, okay, maybe we need to think differently about how we are going to produce hydrogen in this way from step A, B, C, D, E. Maybe we need to shift it and maybe say we need to reconnect D with A, and then we have a bit more leverage on the off-taker, for example. He's more interested in using this type of line. So yeah, maybe a kind of, instead of using hydrogen for this explicit offtake, you can maybe reuse hydrogen for another route that can also again create another advantage. So yeah.